What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Fantrax Toolshed YouTube channel. Gonna be putting a lot of video out over the off season and into 2023. This is kind of been a up and down channel, but we're gonna be consistent with content moving forward. Chris just put out a quick video on Hunter Green the other day. Check that out. Today, I'm going to be diving into my early top 20 starting pitching rankings for 2023. I know season just ended yesterday, but heck, why not hop into 2023? I put a tweet out earlier today with the top 12, and there was a lot of fun discussion, a lot of disagreement, but that's always the nature of the beast when it comes to rankings. So I figured I'd just hop on here for a little bit, discuss the top 20. So let's get right into it here. Boom, there it is. All right, early 2023. You can see the entire top 20 on your screen right here. Let's start at the top. There's no consensus number one or for next year, I should say. You know, through different points of the season, there have been different number ones who people thought was top dog. The best pitcher in baseball, I think we can all agree, is Jacob deGrom. It's all a matter of can he get enough volume to kind of have value for that number one spot. And you look at his last few starts, kind of ballooned his ERA up to a whopping 3.08. I don't know, like worst case scenario for deGrom's 3.08. You're doing pretty damn good. But you look at everything else: XBA 182, xERA was 224. 3.3% walk rate, 42.7% K rate. It's a 39.4% K minus walk rate. That is absolutely absurd. He's like 99th percentile in basically everything. There's no doubting he's the best pitcher in the game. It's just if he can get the innings, he hasn't gotten the innings, quote unquote, since about 2019 or so. But if you can just get 130 to 140 innings of DeGrom, which is kind of the new age 175 at this point, I think he's gonna return enough value to be that number one guy for starting pitchers. 2 and 3, it's really 2A and 2B, and I could flip-flop these either way. Shane McClanahan, Corbin Burns, both kind of, tailed off a bit in the second half. Weren't bad, but just weren't their usual dominant selves. But at the same time, look at the end of the season numbers. Like for McClanahan, 254 ERA over 28 starts with a 30.3% K rate. All the ERA indicators are in line with that as well. He's been trimming the walk rate consistently year to year, gets ground balls, gets whiffs. There's no reason why he shouldn't be a top 5 arm next year. And I'm just thinking it was just a little bit of fatigue for him down the stretch. This is the most innings he's ever pitched in his career. So not worried whatsoever. Same with Burns. Burns went over 200 innings this year. That was kind of the reason why people were still taking Garrett Cole over him going into this season was, he doesn't have the innings. Well, he had more innings than Cole this year. He was one of only a handful of starters to exceed 200 innings. And he still had there was some hiccups along the way, but overall 294 ERA and a 0.97 whip, 30.5% K rate, 6.4% walk rate. ERA indicators are right there in line with his ERA. And I think, if this is kind of like the bottom or the floor, I should say, for Burns, actually the floor is always a lot lower, but look at all of his percentile rankings are super high. Whiff rates are very high on him. Doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. Everything you can want from a bona fide top 5 arm. So I'm just chalking up his late season ups and downs to just the fact that he's throwing the most innings of his career. And, next year he's, got a 200 inning season under his belt. Should be, a lot more acclimated to pitching deep into the season like that. So Corbin Burns and McClanahan, basically 2A and 2B. And if you saw my post earlier, you're already sitting here like, hey, this isn't the exact top 20. I made a flip flop because I'm allowed to. They're my rankings. I moved Sandy up to 4. I should have done so originally, but Sandy doesn't quite have the elite, sexy ceiling that those guys have. They're, 3 guys ahead of him, or even some of the guys below him. But what he has is he's probably he might be the safest arm on this entire list. I think you can make that claim. And the K rate is still slightly above average at 23.4% this year. He gets the volume, super safe ratios, 228 ERA, 0.98 whip this year. I guess he's just, if you want a, set it and forget it type of ace that you don't have to worry about, the ups and downs. Obviously, everyone has their, blow up starts every now and then, but I think he has the least amount of blow up starts. Hopefully don't have to worry about injuries as much with Sandy Alcantara. So if you want just like that safer, elite top 5 option. It's Sandy Alcantara. He's at 4. Bumped to Maxi Pad down to Max Scherzer. I don't know why I started calling him Maxi Pad years ago, but Max Scherzer down to 5. Uh, he's 38, but he's not like your typical him and Verlander like aren't your typical 38, 39-year-old arms. A little bit down this year, but down for Scherzer means a 2.29 ERA, 0.91 whip across 23 starts. Still at a 30.6% K rate. Like he always has a 30+% K rate. Walk rate was down to 4.2%, so he improved there. xERA was under 3. And yeah, you can look at like the fastball velo as my good buddy Michael Simeo noted in our discussion on Twitter, that it's been slowly ticking down, right? It was 94.9 in 2019, and then 94.7, 94.3, and 94 on the dot this year. I'm not overly worried about that. Like, he's getting older. That's kind of to be expected. It's not like a massive drop off. And he seems like a guy that he's not just a thrower, he's a pitcher. He knows how to. I think he's gonna be at Kershaw. Even if he's down at like 92, I think he's a good enough pitcher and smart enough to still know how to dominate with, slightly decreased velocity. He still got good velocity. That's still pretty damn good. So he got the 3, he can miss bats with all 5 of his offerings. Just with him, if he can get enough innings, but again, 145, he can go above that 145, get 150 plus next year. I think there's a good chance he ends up as a top 5 arm in 2023. Number 6 is probably the one that I've seen the widest array of responses on. Like, for instance, I've seen people that still have Garrett Cole number 1. I see people that say he's not even top 15 arm. And first off, I don't agree he's number 1, but he's abso-freaking-lutely top 15 and abso-freaking-lutely top 10. I mean, yeah, the ERA jumped to 3.50, or as they would say in South Park, about tree fitty. Actually, exactly tree fitty. But that still comes with elite volume, 200 innings, 202 thirds, 257 strikeouts, 1.02 whip. And yeah, he could be kind of maddening. He's always at like that one inning where it's like, oh, he's going great. And then there's like that one inning where this all comes unraveled. But there's not many pitchers that you could say are more consistent than him. This is his highest ERA since 2017. And before that, he had 4 straight years of ERA of under 3.25. He has 4 straight years, 4 straight full seasons of over 240 Ks, and he would have gotten there if 2020 was a full season as well. So he had 94 Ks in 73 innings then. I mean, there's not a lot to hate here. Like, the super high floor consistency is there, and still got very good numbers, even if the ERA has ticked up a little bit. Even with the 3.5 ERA, you still, I think, like the 12th or 13th or 14th pitcher on the Razzball player rater. So he is still, borderline top 5 for me. Number 7, Mr. Justin Verlander, coming back from missing almost 2 full seasons and having one of his best seasons ever. Yeah, the K rate is down. It's not up near 35% where it was in 2018 and 2019, but still has that incredibly low walk rate, 5% or less the last 4 years. The ERA indicators are all, in the mid 2s. So, like, there was nothing fluky about this. He's got to, one reason why he's not higher is that he's 39. I think number 7 overall for a 39-year-old is still very, very fair given what he's done. And I think, there's no reason to expect him to, like, he's shown no reason to think he's going to fall off in 2023. His velocity was exactly the same as it was in 2020, even up 0.1. He's still missing bats with his slider and his changeup, curveball, a little bit down on 24% whiff rate, but all 4 had a batting average against under 200 and a slugging against under 300 and a WOBA against under 250. So 4 very good pitches, very good command. Doesn't even really use the changeup that much anymore, but still, like, Verlander is still Verlander. So not worried about him falling off at all. Number 8, Dylan Cease. Cease had a 2.20 ERA this year with a 111 whip, and 111 whip's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but that's a little higher than you usually see from a guy that has a 2.20 ERA. I'd probably have to go. Oh, I'd love to look up on Fangraphs like the highest whip for like a pitcher with an ERA of like sub 250 or something like that. That'd be a fun thing to look up, which I'll probably do later on after this video. But the walk rate, it's kind of settled into that 10% range, which again, you can live with. When you're getting a 30+% K rate, which he has each of the last 2 years, he's got the elite stuff, the elite swing and miss stuff. He's got the whip, 4 pitches that can miss bats, whether even his fastball is pretty good whiff rate on the fastball. The changeup he kind of ditched that this year down to 2.4%, but four seam, curveball, slider, all very effective offerings. Can miss bats with all of them. He just doesn't quite have the consistency of the guys above him. And that's kind of why I left him down here. But again, he's still top 10 without question. Number 9, we got Brandon Woodruff after a little bit of a slow start this year. Like he had in 4 April starts a 5.30 ERA, 5 May starts a 4.32 ERA, and then he came back in the end of June, had a gem there, 5 innings, 1 run, 10 Ks. Follow that up with a 2.10 ERA in July, 2.70 in August, 2.33 in September, and then only give up 2 runs and 6 innings in this one October start near the end of the season. So outside of that first 2 months or so, Woodruff was easily a top 10 arm. Like overall, still only had a 3.05 ERA with that slow start. Racked up 30.6% K rate. Walk rate in line with previous years. ERA indicators line up with the surface stats, doesn't give up a ton of hard contact, can mix 5 pitches incredibly well. All 5 of them are above a 10% usage rate, four-seamer, sinker, changeup, curveball, and slider. Gotta love Milwaukee's, pitching, just mindset and development and everything that goes into that. So he is a very kind of safe, back end top 10, or even, he's definitely an ace. He's more like the back third of aces, I think, at this point. But I think he's going to be one of the guys that I get a lot of shares of in 2023. I think he's going to be a little bit undervalued coming into the year. Next, this was probably the hardest person to rank, Spencer Strider. I see people say he's top 5, people that aren't buying in yet, and that's fair. For a rookie to do what he's done is phenomenal and not seen very often. That he's the pitcher. Let me phrase this the right way. For all pitchers that have 200 strikeouts in a single season, he had the lowest amount of innings pitched by about 15 or 16. Next closest was Chris Sale a handful of years ago. 131 and two-thirds innings, 202 strikeouts, 267 ERA, 0.99 whip. Yeah, you could say he falls into that two-pitch pitcher, but his two pitches are really damn good. Four-seamer averages 98.2 with a 201 batting average against. Slider is, you could argue that it's the best slider in baseball. It's at least in the discussion. 139 batting average against, 197 slugging allowed, 52.2% whiff rate. And the changeup is actually pretty solid as well, even though he only uses it about 5% of the time. 136 batting average against and a 47.5% whiff rate. So maybe you see that usage tick up even around 10%, maybe as a possibility for next year. Yeah, reason why I put him 10 is because even with some regress, let's say he regresses to a low 3 ERA. Let's say he goes up half a run, 3.17. Whip goes up to like 106, 107. I think that's fair. It gives him 150, 160 innings. But with his strikeouts, that's still easily a top 10 arm when you factor all that in. So that's why he's number 10 for me. Spencer, the stash Strider. Number 11, Julio Urias. I think it's kind of funny that how far under the radar he's flying. Yeah, the K rate is not great, but it's still a solid K rate. It's above league average K rate, 24.1%. He had a 2.16 ERA across 31 starts, 0.96 whip. I'm not sure why. 17 wins, too. I know wins are so fluky, but this is a guy that just gave you everything you could want from a guy that was drafted as a back end ace this year. I think he's going to be right back in that range again next year. I don't see any reason why he can't. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite K guy, but if he can stay in that 24, 25, 26% range with ERAs of under 3, which is what he's done the last 2 years, really 3 of the last 4 years, and in 2020 he was at 3.27. So low ERA, good Ks, obviously great teams. Always have that run support being with the Dodgers. So definitely a guy that should be in top 10 discussion, and he's at number 11 for me. Number 12, Mr. Zach Gallen, who had the long scoreless inning streak this year. Overall, had a 2.54 ERA in 31 games across 184 innings. So averaging a tick under 6 innings per start. Very good. K rate kind of settled into that 27, 28% range. Best walk rate of his career this year, 6.6%. xERA, 3.17. Mixes 5 off. Really, he's kind of cut it down to 4 offerings this year, but four-seamer, cutter, curveball, changeup, all very effective offerings. 239 batting average against or less on all of them. 350 slug against or less. It doesn't have the elite whiff rates, but the fact that he can just mix the pitches so well to both sides of the plate, both righties and lefties, got to be kind of geared up for all four of those offerings at any one time. Like I said, he's looks like a young Aaron Nola to me. So I have no issues with taking Gallon as your ace next year. He's fairly safe, and he's showing that 2021 was an aberration, and this is what he is, like what he's been the other 3 years of his career. So Gallon at 12, at 13, oh, look who it is, Aaron Nola. Nola is the model of consistency. 3.25 ERA. Now, and you could say last year, what was the ERA last year? It jumped to 4.63. That's almost kind of like Gallon. That is an aberration. Look what Nola's been every other year of his career. He's a career 3.60 ERA guy, but for the most part, you look at he should be like a low, 3.3 ish ERA guy. Whip right around 1. Plenty of volume, plenty of strikeouts. K rate has been above 29% each of the last 3 years. The walk rate has dipped to each of the last 4 years down to a career best 3.6%. xERA was even better than his surface ERA this year. Nola is the dude, man. Like, he's just super consistent. And if you want, like I said, if you don't want to pay up for one of those elite options and you just want a safe ace, like this Gallon, Nola, and this next guy range, really, you can wait on pitching and you can get some really good arms because it is, as I mentioned, pitching is super deep, super loaded. So you can afford to wait and suck at a guy that you can live with as your ace. And absolutely you can live with Aaron Nola as your ace. At number 14, Alek Manoah, the big 6'6" righty, 24 years old, 2.24 ERA this year across 31 starts. And that is after a nice rookie year last year with a 3.22 ERA across 20 starts. The one reason why he's not higher is that strikeout rate. He's yeah, he could be like a Sandy Alcantara type if he gets some more volume in there. But he's not quite there yet, and he's got right around a league average K rate. That is the one reason why he's down here and not like 6 or 7, closer to Sandy, I should say. But you can't argue with the ratios. 224 is 0.99. He still was one of the higher volume guys at 196 and 2/3 innings. Limits hard contact very well. He's been in the top about 7-8% in terms of hard hit allowed, percentage allowed, I should say, each of the last 2 years. Trimmed the walk rate by 2.2% down to 6.5 this year. Though the xERA was about a run higher, but still only at 3.31. He's at one of the best sliders in baseball, although it was very odd to see the whiff rate hasn't been elite on the sliders. 37% last year, 31.8 this year. That's the thing. He doesn't miss bats quite as much as you would hope, but that's probably the one thing holding him back. He's a very safe option to be like a back end ace as well. At 15, Shane Bieber. Bieber, would the real Shane Bieber please stand up? He was, pretty inconsistent this year. April 240. These are ERAs by month: 245, 407, 313, 423. But then 162 and 251 to end the season. Post All-Star break, 248 ERA in 14 starts with 92 strikeouts and 11 walks and 94 and a third innings. I think if we just accept that what year was it? He was just like super stupid good. 2020, the shortened year. If we can just accept that Bieber's not coming back and he's kind of settled into that ERA around 3, give or take, and a solid but not elite K rates. And I think he could bounce back. K rate 25% this year, was 33-1 last year. So a good K rate, good ratios. Is not that elite 2020 Bieber that we saw. I think you can start valuing and appreciating Bieber for what he is, and that's a high end 2, back end 1, and maybe there'll be a little bit of consistency start to start month to month, but end of the year you're gonna like what you have. What was he? He was what number was? Oh, 15. So up to 16 now, and another one that's kind of hard for me to rank, but I put Carlos Rodon at 16. We'll see where he ends up. I think he's a free agent after this year. I might be wrong. I should double check that. So let me pull it up real quick. Or if he's not a free agent this year, he's a free agent next year. I forget what that contract was or what the options were. Let me take a look here. Oh no, he is signed through next year. Okay, I was wrong. So he's signed through 2023 with the San Francisco Giants. And there's always gonna be that elevated injury risk with him, but at the same time, he pitched 178 innings this year, most of his career. He's at an ERA under 3 each of the last 2 years. whip right around 1 each of the last 2 years, and a key rate 33, 34%, walk rate right around 7%. He's kinda settled in, and there's no flukiness here. There's no, BABIP issues. The ERA indicators are very much in line, even a little bit lower in some cases, than a surface ERA of 2.88. Love San Fran and what they do with pitching, so I think, you can expect another kind of borderline ace year from Rodon in 2023. Number 17, Shohei Ohtani, and I fully admit I should have probably put Ohtani higher. I just gotta wonder if there's gonna be, I don't know. You feel like there's gonna be some burnout coming eventually. Like, how long can this guy be an elite two-way player? I should stop doubting. I'm not doubting him. Let me say that. I'm not doubting Ohtani. Like, he's shown everybody not to doubt him, but can we ever expect more volume than what he gave this year, which was 28 starts, 166 innings, and which was the 51st most innings pitched over the last 2 years? I tweeted that earlier. He had the 18th most plate appearances over the last 2 years and 51st most innings pitched over the last 2 years. So he's giving you the volume, but as just solely a pitcher, gotta wonder if you're ever gonna see any more volume. I should probably bump him a handful more spots, probably in like I can see him putting him as high as like 12, 13 range. But it's just we're nitpicking at this point. But Ohtani, obviously, a stud of both sides of the ball, and that's putting it lightly. Had the best K rate of his career this year, best walk rate of his career. xERA is well under 3. Everything is legit with Ohtani. You just got to wonder, what the volume will be like every year to year as solely a pitcher. That might keep him down a couple spots, but no doubt top 20 arm, and it probably should be a handful of spots higher. I fully admit that. Maybe I'll adjust that as the offseason goes on. Another guy that's super safe here at number 18, and probably some would argue should be a little bit higher, Max Fried. Career 309 ERA across 6 seasons. This year was 248 ERA across 30 starts, 185 and a third innings, 101 whip. K rate is kind of still in that 22, 23, 24% range. So league average or slightly above it. Walk rate, best of his career, 4.4% this year. ERA indicators line up, doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. If he could just get more volume, he's Sandy Alcantara, pretty much. I think Sandy has a slightly higher K upside than Fried, and he gives you the more innings. Like Fried, this was the most he's ever thrown, 185 and a third. If he can get up in that 220, 230 range, you're talking putting him a lot closer to Sandy, but he's very safe, high end too, for fantasy purposes. I said one of these safer names on this list. At number 19, I got Zach Wheeler from the Philadelphia Phillies. 282 ERA, 1.04 whip this year in 26 starts, 153 innings, 26.9% K rate, 5.6% walk rate. He has kept that walk rate right in that 5-6% range. This is the third straight year with an ERA under 3. xERA was 3.10 as well. He's missed, a few starts here and there, but this is a guy that last year had 213 innings, 195 innings in 2019, 182 in 2018. So he's one of the, safer arms. I'm not expecting anything to be a long-term issue with him here. And if he can get back up over 200 innings, he's probably going to finish a good at least 5 to 6, 7, 8 spots higher in terms of his value for 2023. And last but not least, at number 20, Luis Castillo only made 14 starts this year, but was very good in those 14 starts. 286 ERA across 85 innings, 1.07 whip, 27.2% K rate, and a 7.3% walk rate. This is his fourth straight year with ERA under 4. It ballooned to 398 last year. But again, kind of like I said with Nola and Gallen, that's kind of the aberration. And that was the first full year back after the shortened COVID year. So you got to take a lot of that with a grain of salt, especially with these guys that are established, kind of top end arms like Castillo is. He's not an ace in my mind. There's nothing wrong with Castillo. It's just he's just not quite at ace levels. Like I think the ERA should be low to mid 3, like 3.32, 3.3 ERA. What's his career ERA? 3.59, but I think a little bit lower than that. 3.2, 3.3 ERA. Whipper around 1, maybe a little bit higher than that. 27% K rate. What he did this year? 286, 107, 27.2% K rate. I think that's very fair for the type of arm that he could be in the next year or so. And Seattle's on the rise as he made the playoffs the first time in, was it 21 years? Yeah, 21 years since 2001. So, good chance to get some hopefully get some wins there. I know it's so hard to speculate, but he's a good team around him, a rising team around him. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of good things in Seattle. So you could have thrown so many others in this 20th spot. There's some honorable mentions here, like Nestor Cort. Some of the hardest ones I'm going to leave out of the top 20 were like Yu Darvish, Nestor Cortez, Joe Musgrove, Gaussman, Framber. I think Glasnow could be, but I can't rank him that high just because the risk associated with Glasnow. But he could be top 10. Kershaw could be. Obviously, he's got the risk, and who knows when he's going to retire. Guys like Sevy and like Freddie Peralta. I think Kirby could be top 20. Dustin May, a lot of those guys, could jump up into that top 20. And there's always a handful that jump up into the top 20 every year. Like Luzardo could, maybe a Nick Lodolo, stuff like that. But that is my current top 20 as of October 6th. Obviously, it is the first day of the offseason. We will have a lot of changing, a lot of value changes over the offseason as things kind of settle down and players move and whatnot, and we hear new info, dig into these players more. It's going to be a fun offseason. So, again, check out the Fantrax Toolshed YouTube channel. We'll be having a lot of video both on prospects and MLB guys, dynasty, redraft, prospects, keeper, hitting on everything we can. Check out obviously, we'll be still doing podcasts regularly throughout the offseason. We'll be back to 2 a week in probably December, maybe even earlier than that. A lot of fun stuff at Fantrax HQ. 2023 leagues are already started at HQ for fantasy baseball, and a lot of stuff over on Patreon as well. So a lot of fun stuff. So we will get you through the offseason, and it'll be draft season again before we know it. Thanks for tuning in to this video. We'll catch you on the next one.